Routine number 3, taming procrastination. Do an 80-20 to make a 180. Are you a crastinator? Well, if you're really good at putting things off, you can call yourself a procrastinator. Procrastination is thought to be an emotional reaction to stress. Some think it's a sign of impulsivity and distractibility. But most would agree that the avoidance of something uncomfortable is the reason we procrastinate. When we procrastinate, we move from an overwhelmed state of mind to a less stressful state of mind, like watching TV. My 80-20 approach eases the transition from avoidance to doing. The 80-20 rule, or Pareto's principle, was named after the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto in the late 1800s. He noted that for certain economic conditions, roughly 80% of the effects came from 20% of the causes. For example, during Pareto's time, he observed that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population, and that 80% of the peas in his garden came from 20% of the pea pods. In marketing, it's well known that 80% of your sales come from just 20% of your customer base. As it pertains to procrastination, my 80-20 approach is a flip of the 80-20 rule, where 80% is in the planning and 20% is the execution. Let's say you want to start a company, a potentially overwhelming task. Since starting is the hard part, plan to give yourself little rewards for taking each planning step. A Starbucks treat, a Netflix, something you really enjoy. First, visualize the goal and feel the outcome. The independence, the income, the notoriety, whatever drives you to start your own business. Perhaps it's your crummy salary or your disdain for corporate politics. Feel that too. Think of how you'll feel if you don't start the company. Let those emotions sink in a bit. Now you're ready to take out a piece of paper and sketch out the steps in any order you'd need to take. For example, registering the company, market research, moving from full-time employment to part-time, or taking a course in startups, maybe finding a mentor, etc. Then put these ideas in some logical sequence. Time for a little reward. Commend yourself heartily for getting this far. The next reward will come after you break down those steps into smaller steps. You sign up for the startup class, schedule a meeting with a contract lawyer, etc. Time for another little reward. After you've started the class, met with the lawyer, and laid the draft of the business plan with your mentor, at that point, you have 80% of the job done. Now your company is within your grasp, and the execution, or the 20%, is no longer so overwhelming. The hard part, getting a plan, is done. The little incentives you gave yourself along the way, you actually deserved and savored so much more than if you just used them as distractions. By doing the 80-20, you flip the dial 180 degrees from fear to funding. You can apply the 80-20 to any task you tend to put off. However, let me put in a good word about procrastination. There are some folks that thrive on doing things at the last minute. Some folks do their best work that way, and the stress they put on themselves is minimal. But when waiting to the last minute causes you and those around you to panic, the last minute method is not for you. The other point is that not all procrastination is bad. In fact, it might save you a lot of time and money to sit on an idea for a while. Your reluctance to start a task just may be a sign that there are some good reasons for holding off. You may have some strong doubts as to whether your idea is affordable, sustainable, etc. Is the effort worth the gamble? Have you the connections and resources to get questions answered? These are good reasons not to jump in head first on a project. Your task this week is to apply the 80-20 approach to a task you may be putting off. Something simple like cleaning a garage. So Stand in the doorway and imagine how you and others would benefit if you got it done. Then ask yourself, if I were to start, what would I do first, second, third, etc.? And how might you reward yourself for thinking through the steps? As you mentally tackle each corner of that garage, imagine it cleaner and neater. Now you have a plan. You've done your 80%. The hard part is over. The 20%, or the actual doing, is much easier now.